Alright, in this lesson we're going to be looking at how to solve systems of equations by elimination. So the first thing you'll notice is a question on the top left says, when solving systems of equations, what is the elimination method? Well, the elimination method is when you transform the system by multiplying one entire equation by a positive or negative value so that one variable cancels out. In order to solve for y, take the value for x and substitute it back into one of the original equations. Now that may sound kind of confusing just listening to it, but I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like, and this is actually my favorite way to solve systems of equations. I think it's the easiest way, and I think a lot of you are going to prefer this method. And that's why I saved it for last. So let's go ahead and take a look. Notice the question says, how do I use the elimination method to find the solution set? For this example, negative 4x minus 2y equals negative 12, and 4x plus 8y equals negative 24. Now in this case, on this first example, we don't have to multiply it by a positive or negative because it's already set up to cancel out. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to be writing this equation right here in black, and I'm going to be writing this one right here in pink so that we can see the difference. So let's rewrite it, because that's the first step. We always want to rewrite the equation nice and big so that we can adjust it as needed. And then I'm going to write this second equation. We have 4x plus 8y equals negative 24. Now what we're going to do with this is we're going to treat it, I like to work top to bottom and treat it just like if it were a regular addition or subtraction problem. So I'm going to draw a line underneath it, and I'm going to go from top to bottom and say, well, negative 4x plus 4x leaves me 0x. And then I'll say negative 2y plus 8y is going to leave me with 6y's. And they're positive. And then I have my equal sign. And then I'm going to say negative 12 minus 24 gives me negative 36. So now that I got that, I'm going to treat it just like a regular one-step equation, right? We need to isolate the variable y. So in order to isolate it, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to divide it by its coefficient of 6 on both sides. 6 is going to 6 one time. That leaves me with just y. And negative 36 divided by positive 6 will leave me with a negative 6. And we have solved the first part of our system of equation. We know that our value is actually negative 6. Now with that being said, we're going to use this value for y that we have here, this negative 6, so that we can go ahead and substitute it and then solve for x. So we're going to use our answer to solve for x, and then we'll check it in the end. So let's go ahead and take a look. I am going to rewrite this equation right here. So I'm going to go ahead and write 4x plus 8y is equal to negative 24. Now I rewrote the whole thing, but we're going to make an adjustment to it now. So I'm going to bring it back down. I actually have 4x plus 8, but instead of putting the y, I'm actually going to put a set of parentheses because we solved for y. We know what y is. Y is actually negative 6. So I'm going to go ahead and write my negative 6 inside of here. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring down my equal sign and minus 24. Okay, so now notice we only have one variable. So really this is just a multi-step equation. And once we solve it, we'll know what the value of x is. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I multiply my 8 times my negative 6, that's going to give me a negative 48. I'm going to bring down my 4x, haven't done anything to it yet. Bring down my equal sign, my negative 24. So now what I want to do is move all my constants to the right because I want to isolate my variable x. So I'm going to add 48 to both sides. This becomes 0. Bring down 4x. And that's equal to negative 24 plus 28. That's going to give me a positive 24. And then I'll go ahead and divide out by 4. My coefficient of x, so it's isolated, and I am end up with x is equal to positive 6. Alright, so now I have my answer. So I'm going to box my answer over here. I'm going to make kind of a little box in this corner over here. And I have my x value, and I have my y value. So I'm going to write it as an ordered pair. You should always write it as an ordered pair. So I'm going to put my x in red, because we did, or in pink, because we did that in pink. X is equal to 6, and y is equal to negative 6. Now there is one last step that I do always recommend that you do, because let's say I made a mistake when I was working this out, right, on either one of them. It's always a good idea to plug these two numbers back in and see if you can make a true statement out of either one of these equations. Now I usually choose the one that just looks easiest to me, and I know this one is a positive 4, it doesn't have any negative values, and I don't like dealing with negative values. So I'm going to use this bottom one, and I'm going to plug my numbers in and see if it's correct, if it makes a true statement. So I'm going to do 4 times x, my x is 6, and then I have plus 8y, so plus 8, but instead of putting the letter y, I'm going to put in the value for y, which is negative 6, and then that's going to be equal to negative 24. And we're going to see, does this make a true statement? And draw a line to keep it separated. So let's go ahead and do the math. 4 times 6 is going to give me 24. 8 times negative 6 is going to give me negative 48. And I got that is all equal to negative 24. Okay, well 24 minus 28 does give me a negative 24, which is equal to negative 24. So when I see that these two statements make a true statement, this is true, then I know I did it correctly. Now if this would not come out correct, then I know that I must have made a mistake on either x or y, and I need to go back and check my work. And that's all there is to it. So now I want to show you one more. That's going to have one additional step that we're going to have to do. It's going to take into account that multiplying the entire equation by a positive or negative number, so that you can see what that looks like. And once I'm done with that, you'll be ready to solve the rest of these problems on your own. Alright, I am going to start off just like I did last time. I'm going to go ahead and take this top equation right here, and I'm going to put it on top. So let me write it out nice and neat. So we have negative 4x plus 9y equals 9. Then the next thing I'm going to do is write this second equation underneath it. So I have x minus 3y equals negative 6. Now what I hope that you notice on this particular one, I hope that you notice that there's nothing I can cancel out, right? If I do negative 4x plus x, it leaves me with negative 3x. 9y minus 3y leaves me with 6y. Since I can't eliminate anything, I have to do that extra step of multiplying one of these equations by a positive or negative value so that I can get it to cancel. Now, it doesn't matter which one you multiply out. You get to pick which equation you want to work with. Me, I always like working with the ones that are a little bit easier. So I'm going to use this bottom one because this just has a single x, and I know what I can multiply that x by so that I can eliminate one of these values. And I know what I can multiply the y by. So I'm just going to pick, you either got to pick to eliminate the x or eliminate the y. It's your choice. I think in this case, I am going to go ahead and multiply the y. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to multiply this whole thing, so I want to put it in parentheses. And I realized that if this was a negative 9y, I could cancel out the y. So I'm going to use the number 3. I'm going to multiply everything by 3. Now I'm going to say 3 times x. That's going to give me a positive 3x. I'm going to take 3 and multiply it by negative 3y. That's going to give me a negative 9y. And then I'm going to take that 3 and I'm going to multiply it to the negative 6. And that's going to give me a negative 18. Now that I've got a new equation, because I've multiplied everything by 3, I'm going to draw a line through it so that I know not to use that anymore. Alright, so now I can cancel out the 9's, right? Do you see that? So let's go ahead and do the math from top to bottom. So negative 4x plus 3x leaves me with just a negative x value. And positive 9y minus 9y leaves me with 0. Bring down my equal sign, and 9 minus 18 is going to leave me with a negative 9. Alright, I'm almost done. Now I don't have to worry about the 0. There's no value there. but I got a negative x. Remember, you can never have a negative variable with your final answer. So in order to get rid of this negative sign, I have to divide by -1, which is the coefficient of x, and divide this by -1. So -1 divided by -1 is positive, so I end up with a positive x. -9 divided by -1 leaves me with a positive 9. And there's my x value. Now, what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and use one of these original equations, either the x minus 3y equals -6 or -4x plus 9y equals 9, to substitute my 9 in so I can solve for y. Now I'm going to use this original one right here, so I'm going to rewrite it. So let's go ahead and rewrite it. So we got x minus 3y equals -6. And when I rewrite this, I know what x is, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put it in parentheses. My value for x is 9. So instead of x, I'm going to write a 9 right here. And then I'm going to bring down my -3y. And I'm going to bring down my -6. Now at this point, I'm hoping that you realize that I want to get my variable by itself and isolate it. So therefore we need to move the constant to the other side of the equation. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 9 from both sides. That becomes 0. They cancel out. I'll bring down my -3y. And -6 minus 9 gives me a -15. I'm now going to divide by my coefficient of y, which is -3. I'm going to do that on both sides to keep my equation balanced. -3 going to 3 one time, so we're just left with 1y. -15 divided by -3 becomes a positive 5. I have my x value, I have my y value, I am done. And that's why I think this is the easiest way to solve a system of equation. So let me go ahead and write my ordered pair just like we did last time. Make me a little box here, put me a set of parentheses. Alright, my x value in this case, I did it in black, so I'm going to go ahead and say, well, x is equal to 9. My y value was 5, okay, so I'm going to put a 5 right there. So now I want to check it. So let's go ahead and check this real quick. I'm going to pick this easy equation to check it because it's very simple. So I'm going to do x. So instead of x, right, we have a 9. So I'm going to say 9, and then we have minus 3 times our y value, which the y is 5, equals -6. And let's see if this makes sense. So if I distribute, -3 times 5 is going to end up giving me -15. Bring down my 9, and that's equal to -6. Well, 9 minus 15 does give me -6. And once I have a statement that's true, I know I did it right.